Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is superfluous. It's not good, it's not bad. It just has no reason to exist. Nobody really had a story that they wanted to tell here. That's not why this film was made. And as a consequence, it's horrendously bland. Now, look, I am not a big Indiana Jones fan. I obviously know the lore, or am part of the... I partake in the imagery that this series of films has provided. Like, I know who the fuck Indiana Jones is, basically, right? But I am not a fan, so my experience will differ from someone who's really big into indie. And some people might be very passionately angry about this, or perhaps because of its supposed politics, which, they're never really politics that people actually believe in when they make these films, like they want to send a strong political message. That's not how capitalism in films really works. It's not so much that they believe in it, it's just that they think that that's what's gonna sell. That is the trend of the day. Okay, so to get really, really angry as if, these big Hollywood heads were just trying to, change society to make it more left-wing is absolutely naive and nonsensical if you really understand how the game works. They just think it's going to make money. And sometimes they don't have a clue. I agree with you if that's what you think, that they don't have a clue. They don't. They are creatively and spiritually incredibly arid. And that's how these films end up being made the way they are. So look, I am coming at this film from a cinephile moviegoer. And all I can say is it's for someone who has not invested in Indiana Jones, it's just really a very bland film. It's boring. It's uninspired in so many ways. Look, Indiana Jones himself, the script is horrific. The direction has no vision. And James Mangold is a very good director. Obviously, he's not like in the pantheon or anything like that, but he's in the sort of higher echelons of how, of good filmmakers. He knows how to direct, but there's nothing here. There's no vision. There's no sense that he really knew where to put his focus other than to make a competent film. And part of it, is damaged by the editing itself. Like, nothing really is top notch enough. No department feels like they really had, a fucking serious stake in it. And this is really bizarre because, for instance, the editing really messes shit up quite a bit. And the photography does as well. You never really have enough time to appreciate what's there. And this coming from someone who's been an extra in this fucking film. I used to live in Glasgow and I was an extra in this, and it was marvelous what they had. It was a massive Hollywood production, and they had shut down the center of Glasgow and pretty much turned it into 1960s New York City. And my God, for someone who was like me, it was just amazing coming to set every day. It was absolutely so awe-inspiring. It really felt like, wow, this is what Hollywood, what a big production can really do. They fucking changed all the buildings to look American and from the 60s, and the attention to detail in the scenography was insane. You know, that they had like, they even went to the trouble of changing like shop windows to make them have fucking prizes from the era. It was spectacular, and I know being there that it felt real. It felt like fucking getting into a time capsule every day, you know, and being transported in this different like place and time, and you know, the energy and all the stunts were incredible. You know, these are all like super fucking duper great professionals, and yet you don't get any of that by, like, I didn't get any of that by rewatching the film. Everything was masqueraded by CGI. The colors were off. It just felt unreal. It felt weightless. It felt kind of hazy. And you don't get the spectacle of it in the final film because of the photography that doesn't really like take it in a way that's, you know, that fills you with wonder and like emotion on what you're looking at. And really, and the editing doesn't give you enough time. You know, it always cuts a little bit too soon just because they get this frenzy in the editing, like, oh my god, this is an adventure film, so we really must make it snappy and fucking like keeping it on the go all the time. But that's no way to handle rhythm. You need to kind of set yourself in the space, and then, you know, at certain points make skips ahead, or like really focus on something that grabs your attention in a powerful way. But the spectacle is a big part of that, and you don't have time because of the editing to ever really know what you're looking at and really appreciate the craft that went into it. Soundtrack was very bland as well. But look, Indiana Jones, if I didn't know anything about it, would be just Harrison Ford in this film as Indiana Jones and the character of Indiana Jones. You know, if you'd never heard of him, you would have no fucking clue why this guy is a big deal. Why he's supposed to be a charismatic, cool protagonist. He's old. He's written like he's old. And he's not cool old. He's just old. He's not Indiana Jones as an old man. He kind of is just an old man who's tired and has nothing to do. And he's completely reactive in this film. He just kind of, he's got no reason to really partake in any of it until it just kind of like whips him up from his one bedroom apartment where he lives alone and sleeps on the sofa in his underwear. You know, he's reactive to the character of Phoebe Waller. I can't remember her full name. I think something like that. Who, look, she's fine. She's a fine actress, but she's got nothing to work with either. Like, she's written horribly as well. She's just very abrasive. She's kind of aimless in the plot, other than to kind of look cool, I guess, and sort of pretend to have an emotional arc where she's like, I don't know, warming up to her humanity or something like that. It's not there. It's not in the film. None of this. You know, I think they were kind of going for he's old and, you know, just kind of waiting to die, but then, you know, this person who's troubled from his past and that has, because she's his goddaughter, who has an emotional connection with him, just kind of like yanks him up into an adventure, and through that he helps her, you know, regain her humanity and sort of innocence in a way. And through that, you know, ending where, okay, his life has meaning again. And we'll get to the ending. But if that was the idea, That's not there. That's not in the film. Indiana Jones has no personal adventure. He's just kind of in it. And Phoebe Waller, whatever, whose character name is Helen Shaw, she has no fully fleshed out adventure, personal adventure in any kind of way. She just kind of flips on a dime at a certain point, and she kind of becomes a bit more human. But they are both paper thin. They got nothing to say, nothing to express, no reason to exist. No, there's no reason for this film to exist. That is my main fucking argument. It's really sad. And yeah, it just does not work. And if you like this kind of stuff, if you think this is a competent film, if you enjoyed it and thought, wow, what a fucking thrill ride, I have issues with that. I do. I do. I think it's fine if you just thought it was, okay. But, and I know that the general audience doesn't really care about any of what I'm about to say, but you should also see this film as a problem, as a problem of creativity and imagination in society. I really believe that. This is not okay. The film itself is okay, but the fact that this is what they make with $300 million, that you think that this is acceptable, I don't think that's okay. I don't. Obviously I can't take it away from you, and I don't want to take it away from you if you had a good time. There's many reasons why you might have had a good time. It's a competently made film, and it's fine to like it in a way, but I think it's only fine to like it if you realize that it's not good, that it's not fine, that it's massively lacking. I think if you have that self-awareness but if you're, fine, fine, meh. If you think it's meh, and you kind of see that it's meh, but at the end of the day, you're still like, oh, I had a good evening, fine. But if you think it's good, I think that's a real problem. I think you're part of the problem, frankly. Yeah, and there's this trend that obviously everyone's opinion should be. People will say, "Oh, if you like it, that's always, as long as you like it, that's okay." And I don't think that's true. I think, if people went to watch Power of the Will, the big Nazi propaganda film, and thought, "Yeah, I think this is kind of all right," I don't think that that's just a matter of taste. I think it raises some real questions about the state of a society when they like things that are bad and don't seem to understand that they are bad. Because you kind of like things that are bad as long as you understand and kind of want better. And obviously, the comparison is not one-to-one. Power of the Will and this film are not the same fucking thing. But in a kind of way, they do signal to a real fucking sickness in society. It's not comparable. It's not comparable. But it raises all sorts of problems about the state of our culture, if enough people like it. And, it doesn't seem like people do like it anyways. So there you go. I've just undone my entire argument. Look, I am just disappointed. And speaking of imagination, and this is, I am not gonna, take any of this back. I strongly believe that there's a crisis of imagination that leads to things like this. And this film does lack imagination. It lacks, when you think of Indiana Jones, the kind of idea is magical adventure. I think that's how you can sum it up. It rooted in mythos and just exploration and daring, and none of that magic is really there in this film. In fact, you have a very strange, and this is a spoiler, so spoiler. The whole thing revolves around basically they end up traveling back in time, and they travel back to Syracuse, in I believe it's about 200 something BC, and it should be amazing, but it's not, because it's all CGI. First of all, it's also just really kind of silly, but it's also just kind of off for the character and for the story and for the saga, and none of the sense of wonder that I associate, even as a non-fan, with Indiana Jones, is entirely lacking. There's no thing that you can kind of quote, there's no Kalima, there's no like rolling boulder, and there's like half a moment of that when they go into the ear of Dionysus in Syracuse, which I went to as well once. So there you go, another piece of all important lore about the person who's talking. I was in the ear of Syracuse, which is basically a massive cave. But yeah, there's a little bit of that there, but it's just kind of lacking the memorable, cool, whimsical shit that makes Indiana Jones kind of stand out as a cultural phenomenon. It's very cookie cutter and dry and just meh. And okay, I'm just gonna wrap it up because I've said, look, the possibly the weirdest thing and the biggest sign of them not really knowing why this film exists or having any self-awareness about themselves and what they're doing, and is the ending. So obviously spoilers. So basically you're gonna have, and I'm just really putting myself into these people's heads. So you're about to make a film where it's going to be Harrison Ford's last run as Indiana Jones, so it's probably going to be the last, hopefully, the Indiana Jones film. And the way Indiana Jones ends his journey, his cinematic journey, as a character, as a protagonist, as a hero, as an icon, is sort of rambling like crazy back in time, that he wants to stay in the past and die because he's wounded and die in Syracuse. Why? Like, nothing in the film leads to that. Like, it's not that depressive that you ever get the sense that it's too bland for that you ever get the sense that Indiana Jones really wants to die or something like that. He's just bored. Like, he's bored and aimless, but there's no sense that he really like has something eating at him. Yeah, he's divorced and like his fucking child died, but we don't see that, we don't feel that, he doesn't act like that's, And then all of a sudden he's just like, I don't want to live anymore. I don't want to die back in, 200 BC. You go, I'm staying here. I'm like, what? Anyways, and so and he's kind of like rambling. He's not himself. Like, this is not like a cool sort of, this is where I belong, I belong in the past. I am a relic. He can make a fucking commentary about that. Like, if that's what your fucking message is, that he's a thing of the past, and he kind of accepts it, and he just wants to let, the future be the future, you know, go future without me, because I'm an old relic, and I accept that, and I don't know, this is my last final adventure. I'm just gonna fucking like live, not die, but live in the past for a little bit of like my final years. There's potential to that idea, but that's not what it is. It's not a cool sort of like farewell to arms from Indiana Jones. He's an old man who's been wounded, and he's kind of rambling that he wants to die in the past. This is the ending of your character, of your like franchise icon, and he's an old man rambling that he wants to die, and he gets punched in the face by the co-protagonist, a woman, his goddaughter, and he's knocked out unconscious, and he wakes up in his present in this 1960s, because she saved the day like off screen while he was passed out, and then that's the last of that's how he goes out. That is his last adventure. He's pathetically kind of, sort of like, take your meds, grandpa, and then he gets knocked out, and that's the end of Indiana Jones. Yeah, and then he just kind of like, he reunites with his wife, who's never been in the film, and I don't know because I haven't watched the film, so I'm like, okay, but yeah, he's an old man in a flat, who reunites with his wife. Sweet. This is not. How is this like a fitting ending to the character of Indiana Jones? Like, what were you thinking? And that's all I have to say.